Hello, this is Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group. Today I want to talk about the vote in the House regarding the MORE Act, or the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, and I will talk a little bit about elections and election corruption. So first of all, the bill passed the House yesterday. It looks like my Congressman Brooks voted nay, even though I reached out to him through normal.org, emailing campaigns, and attempted to let him know my opinion, that I was in favor of the MORE Act. He did not respond, and he also voted no on this bill, so that is troubling to me. Pretty much all Republicans voted no. There were 5 Republicans that voted yes, and you can see that there's some green R's here. And one of the Republicans who voted yes is Matt Gaetz from Florida. I really enjoyed what he had to say in the debate. His main point was that there are problems in the bill, but there has been a generation of people who have been lied to about the danger of marijuana, and the law with marijuana being a Schedule I substance has led to many people being locked in cages, and that is not justice. So that he had the best point. I encourage you to look at this website, find out if your representative voted the way you want them to vote, and make sure that you reach out to them, let them know your opinion, whether you're disappointed or if you are glad that they voted the way that they did. So I went to the C-SPAN Congress recordings, and I was able to watch the debate, and I was mostly interested in the people who I disagree with. So all of the conservatives, they mostly were attempting to present the Democrats as people who are irresponsible because they are not trying to do a COVID relief fund. Instead, we're trying to legalize drugs, quote unquote, legalize drugs. And that was kind of the main point that a lot of them were making, which ignores the fact that there are people being locked in cages for growing plants. I say that a lot. But yeah, these are essentially immoral people in my view because they want to lock people in cages for growing plants. It's very simple. And if you compare that with taking a lot of taxpayer dollars and giving people money, like the person down the street who got $100,000 grant because of COVID relief, then I think these Republicans have their priorities crooked. All right. Another thing the Republicans said, there was someone who they tried to refer to him as a doctor. I think he's a representative and has been a doctor or a practicing physician. And he was saying that marijuana is a gateway drug, which is a pointless claim because milk is a gateway drug as well. I mean, everyone who does heroin has done milk, almost everyone. They've also drank water. So, yeah, calling something a gateway drug is pointless. And if you really wanted to look at gateway drug, you should think about the mechanism by which you receive the thing. So if you're going to the store and you have to pass by the candy aisle as you check out, your kids are going to ask you for some candy. It's that mechanism by which you buy groceries forces you through a gate. It is a gateway where on the aisle there is candy. So similar, if you are buying marijuana from a drug dealer, quote unquote drug dealer, who in the black market, where there is illegal activities, then on your way out the door you will be offered other things. Hey, would you like ecstasy? Would you like heroin? This doesn't always happen, but it's more likely to happen, and this would explain why it is a gateway drug, just by proximity. And if you want it to not be a gateway drug, then you need to legalize and regulate it the same way you would legalize and regulate tobacco and alcohol. The only good points that were made um, is related to the fact that some people who use cannabis, they are more likely to have hallucinations and develop schizophrenia. Kind of these, it's a mental health issue. If you already have schizophrenia, I would discourage you from using mind-altering substances. And this just comes down to education. It's the same. It's like peanut allergies, right? It's just like an allergy. There are, if you eat peanuts and you have an allergy, you can die. So this just needs to be about education. And people will learn. As people are impacted by marijuana because they have a unique anatomy where they have this kind of allergic reaction, people will learn to be careful. And we will learn to be able to identify people who should avoid the plant. And we can identify mechanisms by which we can run experiments to determine if the plant is safe for you or not. It's the same thing with peanuts. So that's a good point, but it's not an excuse for locking people in cages for growing a plant. So almost all of the Republicans voted no. This is discouraging because, well, I'll continue. So I used TweetDeck. I tried to, some people like to jump on hashtags and in order to filter some of those out, I added some filters. I did not like doing that because that means that my post would be filtered as well. And maybe it would be cool if I checked out Parler, and I can upload my photo ID in order to become a Parler citizen. It would be cool if Twitter did something like that as well, so that I could filter by Twitter citizens or something like that. And also, it'd be nice if Parler had something like a TweetDeck. Maybe they do. I'm just not aware of it yet. So I clicked on some of these tweets. Here are the Democrats who voted no. So if you disagree with these Democrats, then you should try to get them out of office. I will do the same with my representative, Mo Brooks. This is a tweet that basically, well, I'll click into it, but McConnell probably won't allow a vote to happen in the Senate. So if a vote happens, it might happen after there is a transition after January 6th. It's but I think those votes, it's still up in the air whether or not there's going to be a Republican or Democrat-led Senate. And it's just sad that this issue is partisan. It reminds me, I have to remember slavery and women's rights, or especially slavery. It's like, why is there a partisan divide on some injustice in our system? So there's no reason for you to think about your political party with regard to morality. And so it's simply immoral to lock people in cages for growing plants. Oh, I should mention, there was a lady who wanted to protect our children, but she didn't have good points. There were other people who were saying the way you protect your children is you make you legalize and regulate cannabis, because it's easier to get cannabis for someone who is underage. Like for an 18-year-old, they can get cannabis much easier than they can get alcohol. So her point was moot. I don't know if these people are, I don't think they're either, it's hard to tell if they're ignorant or if they're malicious. There's a razor or a rule of thumb that you shouldn't attribute malintent if you can attribute stupidity. There was one Republican was saying that nobody had reached out to him and told him that They wanted him, the first thing for him to do is to legalize cannabis, and I just don't believe it. I want to see what the opinion is of the people who are supposed to be represented by these Republicans, and we just don't have the data. There are people who try to say, 2/3 of the people support marijuana legalization, but the representatives need to know the opinion of their constituents, and the only way you can do that is with a good election system, a good system where you can get feedback about the opinions of the people you're supposed to represent. All right. And I actually believe there's a lot of Republicans who want to legalize marijuana. Lots of people voted for Trump who want to legalize marijuana. I clicked on this link, and if I go to the bottom, well, they got so many ads. Go up, go up, go up. Here. So, while federal laws haven't prevented 15 states from legalizing, it does impact business. Businesses can't use banks like other companies. Businesses also remain at risk for federal prosecution. Additionally, the classification of cannabis as a Schedule I drug prevents taxes from being collected and research from taking place. This is one of the more important points. If you can't do research, you can't learn. You can't learn to do those experiments and those tests to determine if someone would have an allergic reaction. So we don't allow science to happen, and this bill would allow science to happen. And federal employees can still be fired for using marijuana. That's just immoral. In this article there was a link to a tweet that shared, there it is, and they shared a link, but I already showed you. I think C-SPAN is better than this. I had a hard time finding this. I recommend going to C-SPAN to learn about what's happening in government, and I'm glad to share that outlet with you. Just a few more tabs here. So this person said you should be pointing out that the VP-elect, which isn't really the VP-elect yet. I mean, it has not. The election is not done. So the mainstream media would tell you that Kamala Harris is the VP-elect, but not yet. But yeah, you should point out that Kamala Harris and Jerry Nadler helped us. They were the authors of these bills, but I hesitate to call them authors. They introduced them. Other people wrote these bills. They were large bills. And then this gets into elections. This person basically is saying the AG and election security officers both have facts confirming the sanctity of the election. That's hard to do. It's kind of like having facts that there is no God, right? You can't prove something doesn't exist, right? There's no facts in the world that can prove that something doesn't exist. So I think this is bad thinking. It's just it's a fallacy. It's a low IQ thought. And I just watched video footage of a county in Georgia where a lady asked the press and the Republican observers to leave, and then after everyone left, there were about 4 people in the room, and this CCTV footage shows them pulling out what they call briefcases, 4 briefcases that could have had 6,000 ballots each, and started running these things through a voting machine for about 2 hours, which could be up to like 18 to 24,000 votes that were pulled in, and that's a fraudulent election system, and that's corruption. When I go to vote, I fill in the information on the ballot, and then I watch the person run it through the scanner. So I know, at least I've basically, actually I think I ran it through the scanner myself. So that would be a good way to do it if you want to have your vote be anonymous. It could be a better system even then, and that's what I want to get into next. So I've got a private repo on GitHub where I've wrote about things in government. Sometimes maybe I could run for office in 20 years. So I think about government, I write about government, it helps me think. One of the things I write about is elections. And inside of elections, I say we must not allow our government to favor one candidate over another by putting a candidate's name on the ballot. So I'm of the opinion that the election system is corrupt because we favor one candidate over another on the ballot itself. I would also add, now that I've witnessed the election, that Jo Jorgensen, even though she was on every single ballot, did not get to participate in a debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That is a corrupt election system as well. It's just not right. And I did not vote in this last election, so I'm not biased either way. This other point is we must allow our voters to give authority to others to vote on their behalf. So this is the way we can do secure financial payments online, and allows for competition among the technologies which are used. And I think if you participate in a system that does not have you writing in a ballot and handing it off and counted immediately, and let's assume that's a good system. If you participate in the alternative system, like the future system, you would need to opt in, and I would say you would need to be willing to have your anonymity put at risk. So the problem with this election is people would send their ballot in through the mail. And so the chain of custody is a problem. And so if you send your ballot in through the mail, then you need to have some ID, an identifier, so that you can check that your vote was counted and it was counted correctly. This is like a receipt. And there are technologies that allow you to do this. But the risk is that you sacrifice your anonymity because people might correlate your identification, your unique ID, with you as a person. And that's just the risk you take. But I would be willing to take that risk. So our election systems can be better. I was talking about this 11 months ago. I tried to volunteer with the Open Source Election Foundation, and they wouldn't have me. That communication thread ended abruptly. They wouldn't even allow me to volunteer. I'm a professional software engineer. They wouldn't allow me to volunteer with them. And I wrote down some user stories for an election software. As a potential voter or candidate, I want to be able to create an account, add a phone number, email, and identifying documents. This is the key. Twitter's not doing it. Parler is. As an administrator, I can verify accounts. So that's how you associate, pictures with identifying documents. An election manager can add, help. These are the administrator accounts. Create elections. Add a position for which candidates may choose to run. Add roles. Do you have to be 35 years of age? Select a voting window, so you might be able to go in and vote and change your vote over a period of time. And select the type of election. So 1 vote per voter per election, or X prioritized votes per election. So that's a ranked choice voting system. And configure the visibility of election results. So it can become visible after the voting window or visible during the voting window. And then as a voter, I want to have keys, so I have secure access to vote. These are digital keys. It's a well-known technology. I want to be able to have an anonymous profile. So I should be able to create and customize profiles so that I might want to run as basically an avatar so that I can have an avatar in the system where I run for office, and then I don't have to fear people firing me at work if I'm running for office with some type of ideological view that they don't like. So I like the ability to run for office anonymously. I can make my profile visible, and the reason I like to run anonymously is because I think some people vote based on how you look, some people vote based on your color or your sex, and I don't think you should. I wouldn't want to have people judge me based on my sex or my skin color or my age. So register for positions. I can vote for registered candidate profile. So it's a profile. I can vote for someone named Donald Duck who has a history of things that I like, but they have been certified as a, like Parler does it. I can see elections, past, present, future. I can select my favorite candidate profiles and follow them. So this essentially is like a social media platform that's provided by the government. It's kind of like the United States Postal Service as a government provided service, but has competition with others like FedEx and UPS. So this could be a social media platform that allows for elections. So I can vote for registered candidate profiles in elections during the voting window. I can change my vote during the voting window. I can use a profile to ask questions, answer questions, vote on questions, vote on answers, comment on a question, comment on an answer, vote on comments, and reply to comments. So this is what you would be able to use to develop the profile. So I want to, for example, run for office in 20 years. I can have a profile that is a record of my ideology and how it changes over time. That's it. I thank you for your time. This is Gavin Palmer with Hero looking for a group. Hopefully the MORE Act will get brought into the Senate, and these Republicans will actually be moral human beings. That's what I would like. I'm just praying that they will not worship their party, and hold that above everything else. That's what I'm praying for. But I wrote about the Christian, and these people that call themselves Christians, they pray the way Jesus told them not to pray. They pray like the heathens, repeating the Lord's Prayer in church, and they also their yeses are not yeses and their noes are not noes. They actually put their hand on the Bible and they do an oath of office, which Jesus taught them not to do. So I don't know if these are real Christians, honestly. All right. Have a good day.